Hello everybody and welcome back to Maven's channel. Today I'm going to be walking through the install of this phone holder. It's also a wireless charger and has a USB-C power port as well. Got it off of Amazon, not too expensive. It is a friction-based holder, so it just clamps onto your phone when you put it on there. I plan on mounting it here up on the bar. Not a lot of space there for the clamp, but we're going to get into that later. And then we'll wire it back down through the bike here, tidy it up into one of the fuse boxes. We're going to be using the fuse box that is on the left there, the one that's the farthest. We don't end up using that one just because of power concerns. We'll talk about that later. But that's what we're going to do. We are going to walk through that. We're going to get that done, and I'll show you what we're going to use next. So just some basic tools here, wire snips, some cable ties to clean things up, and these things I got from Napa called fuse taps. We're going to tap into the power by using these fuse taps. I'm going to do a bit more work here with the wires, and I'll show you kind of what I mean next here. So here's the power wire, and since I'm using this fuse tap, it's not going to work. I'm going to have to cut this off, and I'm going to use this female quick connect that the fuse taps will plug into. So I'm gonna have to take my trusty little wire snips here, cut off that red guy there, and put on the blue quick connect. So this is what it looks like with the quick connect on. And as you can see here with the fuse tap will just plug into that quick connect there. The fuse tap will go on the fuse, and I'll kind of show you that next. So here's the fuse on the fuse tap. I've got one of the fuses here out of the fuse box. I've attached the fuse tap to it, and then we're going to nextly insert it into the fuse box there, and then the quick connect would go on top of it. So I ended up using the brake and horn and the headlight. The reason I did this is because those gave me power only when the ignition was on. I tested the further back fuse box, and all those had constant power regardless if the ignition was on or off. And obviously I don't want these things draining my battery when they're not being used, so I wanted to make sure that I used fuses that were only based or turned on when the ignition was on, and I used a voltmeter to check that out. So next we're going to move on to the actual mount, and this is what I got here. And as you can see, there's not a lot of space on the ZX14 here. So I'm going to have to pull off the clutch here, move it over so I can make room for this clamp. And we'll show what that looks like next. Do a couple bolts here, take them off, pull them right through here, and there we go, we got it taken off. Now what I learned is that the clamp, although it kind of fits in there, there's a ridge in the back that unfortunately impedes this clamp when it's on there. It looks like it fits there, but I'm gonna actually have to, and I did have to cut off a bunch of the clamp in the back and grind it out. And this was the plastic spacer that was in between there too as well, and I had to cut that down. So I had to take my angle grinder and I had to cut out a bunch. I was kind of careful, did a little bit at a time, and made sure as I went I added more. But as you can see here, I had to take out a good 2/3 of that clamp to get it to where it would actually mount on the bar. But I did get it here, and it was mounted, and it mounted in good. So now that I've got the mount here, I can take the phone, the RAM style mount here for the ball, attach it on here, and as you can see here now, the phone mount is on. Now it's on time to the wiring. I plan to wire down through the tank here, alongside the bike and to the back here to tidy it away here. I'm gonna run it here up and along with these brake lines here. And the reason why is that the brake line, there's actually a little cutout there at the top, and I'll show you a picture of that later where it goes into and it comes out tidy there. So that's why I chose that. We're going to wire it alongside the bike here, and then there it is with the fuse. You can see here I've got the quick connect fuse in there. I've bent it forward so I can actually put the cap down. Didn't seem to have any problem, but up through there, up along there, and you can see I got a little quick connect tie there that tidies it off here. But double checked it here, works great. Ignition off, no charging, ignition on, charging. And here's the little cutout I mentioned in the tank there where the brake lines come out, and that's where I have the wires coming out. here's a finished product. Spoiler, the radar detector is my next video here, but as you can see here, I've got the wires coming out, plugging into the phone here, and this is where I realized a problem. I do not have long enough wires because when I turn the bars, it comes undone. So I did pull the bike apart again to see if I could get some extra length out of the wire. And unfortunately, I found out that the wire was just too short. Pain in the butt. But what I ended up doing is I ended up going and finding an extension cable, a foot extension power wire here, and then adding that on here. And I'm going to show you what I found here from Napa. So this is what I found here, this trailer connector, and I just used that. And here's finished product. I just used some electrical tape, wrapped it around the cord since it wasn't black. And you'll notice the golf ball in the stem mount, and that is related to the next video where we're going to mount up a radar detector. Thanks guys, see you later.